The sun peeks through the curtains, casting a warm glow on the framed photos of my late husband John and our son Michael. It's been 5 years since John passed, and the house feels emptier with each day. I sip my coffee, lost in thought, when a sudden knock at the door startles me. I open it to find Eliza, Michael's ex-wife, standing there with a suitcase. "Marge, I need your help," she pleads, her eyes welling up with tears. I hesitate, remembering the pain she caused Michael during their divorce. But seeing her like this, I can't turn her away. "Come in, Eliza. What's going on?" She steps inside, her designer heels clicking on the hardwood floor. "I lost my job, and I have nowhere else to go. Can I stay with you for a while? Just until I get back on my feet." Something about her story doesn't sit right with me, but I nod. "Of course, your family. You can stay in the guest room." Eliza hugs me, her expensive perfume overwhelming my senses. "Thank you, Marge. You're a lifesaver." As she settles in, I can't shake the feeling that there's more to her story. She spends hours on the phone, speaking in hushed tones, and leaves the house at odd hours. When I question her, she brushes me off, saying she's job hunting. Days turn into weeks, and Eliza shows no signs of leaving. I notice new designer clothes in her closet and expensive jewelry on her dresser. How can she afford these things without a job? One evening I confront her. "Eliza, I thought you were struggling financially, but I see you buying all these expensive things. What's really going on?" She laughs, a harsh sound that sends a chill down my spine. "Oh, Marge, you're so naive. I have my ways of getting what I want." I stand my ground, my voice firm. "I won't have any illegal activities under my roof, Eliza. You need to leave." Her eyes narrow, and she steps closer, her voice low and threatening. "You can't kick me out, Marge. I'm family, and if you try, I'll make your life a living hell." Fear grips my heart, but I refuse to let her see it. "Get out of my house, Eliza. Now." She grabs her purse and storms out, slamming the door behind her. I sink into a chair, my hands shaking. What have I gotten myself into? That night I lay awake, my mind racing. I know Eliza won't give up easily. She's always been manipulative, even when she was married to Michael. I need to find a way to protect myself and my home. I think back to John's old police connections. Maybe they can help me gather evidence against Eliza without putting myself in danger. I make a mental note to reach out to his former partner, Dan, in the morning. As the sun rises, I feel a renewed sense of determination. I won't let Eliza destroy the peace I've worked so hard to build. I'll fight back, no matter what it takes. She may think she can control me, but she has no idea who she's dealing with. I am Marge Thompson, and I will not be intimidated in my own home. Over the next few weeks, Eliza makes herself at home in my house. She sleeps till noon, leaves her dirty dishes in the sink, and expects me to clean up after her. I bite my tongue, trying to keep the peace, but my patience is wearing thin. One afternoon, I come home from the grocery store to find Eliza lounging on the couch, surrounded by shopping bags from expensive boutiques. She barely acknowledges me as I put away the groceries. "Eliza, I thought you said you were struggling financially," I say, trying to keep my voice calm. "How can you afford all these new clothes?" She rolls her eyes. "Don't worry about it, Marge. I have my ways." I frown, a sense of unease growing in the pit of my stomach. "What do you mean, your ways? Are you doing something illegal?" Eliza sits up, her eyes narrowing. "You know, for someone who's supposed to be helping me, you sure ask a lot of questions. Maybe you should mind your own business." I feel my anger rising, but I take a deep breath. "This is my house, Eliza, and as long as you're living under my roof, it is my business." She stands up, grabbing her purse. "Fine. If you're going to be like that, I'll just leave." I watch as she storms out of the house, slamming the door behind her. Part of me feels relieved, but I know this isn't the end. Eliza's not the type to give up easily. Later that evening, I'm washing dishes when I hear a knock at the door. I open it to find my neighbor, Mrs. Johnson, standing on the porch with a worried expression on her face. "Marge, I hate to bother you, but I thought you should know," she says, her voice low. "I've seen some strange people coming and going from your house late at night, and I've heard loud arguments too. Is everything okay?" My heart sinks. I had no idea Eliza was causing trouble with the neighbors. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Johnson. My daughter-in-law has been staying with me, and we've had some disagreements. I'll talk to her and make sure it doesn't happen again." Mrs. Johnson nods, but I can see the concern in her eyes. Just be careful, Marge. I don't want to see you get hurt. I thank her and close the door, my mind racing. I need to find out what Eliza's up to before she drags me into something I can't get out of. The next morning, I wake up early and start searching Eliza's room. I know it's a violation of her privacy, but I can't shake the feeling that she's hiding something. As I rummage through her drawers, I find a stack of credit card statements with my name on them. My heart stops as I realize she's been using my identity to open new accounts and rack up debt. I confront her as soon as she walks in the door. How could you do this to me, Eliza? I trusted you and you betrayed me. She laughs, a cruel sound that sends shivers down my spine. Oh, please. You were so easy to fool. A little sob story, and you let me right in. You're pathetic, Marge. I feel my anger boiling over. Get out of my house, Eliza. I won't let you ruin my life like this. She smirks, crossing her arms. And what are you going to do about it? Call the cops? I'll just tell them you gave me permission to use your credit cards. It's your word against mine. I realize with a sinking feeling that she's right. She's backed me into a corner, and I don't know how to get out. But one thing's for sure. I won't let her win. I'll find a way to stop her, no matter what it takes. The situation with Eliza is getting out of hand. More neighbors have come to me, complaining about the noise and the suspicious characters hanging around my house at all hours of the night. I'm starting to feel like a prisoner in my own home. I've tried talking to Eliza, but she just brushes me off or gets defensive. I'm not doing anything wrong, she insists, her eyes flashing with anger. You're just being paranoid. But I know better. I've seen the evidence of her lies and deceit scattered throughout the house. Credit card statements, strange packages, and cash hidden in her room. I can't ignore it any longer. One evening, I decide to confront her once and for all. I wait until she comes home, stumbling through the door with a group of rough-looking men. The stench of alcohol and cigarettes fills the air. Eliza, we need to talk, I say, my voice shaking with a mix of fear and anger. She rolls her eyes. Not now, Marge, I'm busy. I stand my ground. No, we're doing this now. I know what you've been up to, and it needs to stop. The lies, the stealing, the illegal activities, I won't have it in my house. Eliza's face twists into a sneer. You don't know anything, you old hag. You're just jealous because I'm living my life while you're stuck in this boring, empty house. Her words cut deep, but I refuse to let her see how much they hurt. This is your last chance, Eliza. Either you clean up your act, or you get out. I won't let you destroy everything I've built. She laughs, a harsh, grating sound. You can't kick me out. I have nowhere else to go. And if you try, I'll make sure everyone knows what a horrible person you are. I'll tell them how you mistreated me, how you're just a bitter old woman who can't stand to see anyone else happy. I feel my anger rising, but I force myself to stay calm. I'm not afraid of you, Eliza. I've dealt with worse than you in my life, and I won't let you bully me in my own home. She steps closer, her face inches from mine. We'll see about that. You have no idea what I'm capable of. With that, she turns and storms out of the room, leaving me shaking with rage and fear. I know I can't let her win, but I'm not sure how to stop her. The next day, I find my tires slashed and my mailbox smashed. I have no proof it was Eliza, but I know in my gut that she's responsible. She's trying to intimidate me, to make me back down. But I won't give in. I've faced tougher challenges in my life, and I've always come out stronger. I start documenting everything, keeping a record of Eliza's actions and the damage she's causing. I know I'll need evidence if I want to get her out of my life for good. Late one night, I hear Eliza arguing with someone on the phone. She's yelling, her voice filled with anger and frustration. I creep closer, trying to make out what she's saying. I don't care what it takes, she hisses. I want that money, and I want it now. And if you don't get it for me, I'll make sure you regret it. My heart races as I realize the extent of her crimes. She's not just stealing from me. She's involved in something much bigger and more dangerous. I know I can't handle this on my own anymore. I need help, and I need it fast. With a heavy heart, I pick up the phone and dial the number of an old friend, someone I know I can trust. It's time to take action, before it's too late. I wait anxiously for Dan, my late husband's former partner, to arrive. When I hear the knock on the door, I rush to answer it, relief washing over me as I see his familiar face. "Marge, what's going on?" he asks, concern etched in his features. "You sounded upset on the phone." I usher him inside, glancing around to make sure Eliza isn't home. "It's my daughter-in-law, Eliza. She's been staying with me, and I think she's involved in something illegal." Dan's eyes narrow. "What makes you say that?" I take a deep breath and begin to explain everything. The late-night visitors, the overheard phone conversations, the evidence of theft and fraud. Dan listens intently, his face growing more serious with each revelation. "Marge, this is serious," he says when I finish. "If what you're saying is true, Eliza could be looking at some heavy charges. We need to gather more evidence and build a solid case against her." I nod, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. "I'm scared, Dan. She's made threats against me, and I don't know what she's capable of." He places a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Don't worry, Marge. I won't let anything happen to you. We'll get to the bottom of this, I promise." Just then, the front door slams open, and Eliza storms in, her face twisted with rage. "What the hell is going on here?" she demands, her eyes darting between me and Dan. I stand up, trying to keep my voice steady. "Eliza, this is Dan. He's here to help me deal with the situation you've gotten us into." She scoffs, rolling her eyes. "I don't need any help, especially not from some washed-up ex-cop. This is none of your business, so why don't you both just stay out of it?" Dan steps forward, his voice calm but firm. "I'm afraid it is our business, Eliza. Marge has evidence of your illegal activities, and we can't just ignore that. It's time to come clean and face the consequences of your actions." Eliza's face turns red, and she clenches her fists. "You have no idea what you're talking about. I'm not doing anything wrong, and you can't prove otherwise." I shake my head, feeling a surge of anger. "Stop lying, Eliza. I know about the stolen credit cards, the fraudulent charges, the shady deals. It all ends now." She takes a step towards me, her eyes blazing with fury. "You think you can just kick me out and ruin my life? I won't let that happen. I'll make you pay for this, Marge. You'll regret ever crossing me." Dan moves between us, his hand on his hip where I know he keeps his gun. "That's enough, Eliza. I won't let you threaten Marge any longer. You have two choices. Either you leave now and never come back, or we call the police and let them handle it." For a moment, Eliza looks like she might lunge at him, her face contorted with rage. But then she seems to think better of it, taking a step back and grabbing her purse. "Fine, I'll go. But this isn't over, Marge. You'll see. You can't get rid of me that easily." With that, she storms out of the house, slamming the door behind her. I collapse onto the couch, my hands shaking with adrenaline and fear. Dan sits down beside me, his voice gentle. "You did the right thing, Marge. I know it wasn't easy, but you stood up for yourself and for what's right. We'll make sure Eliza pays for what she's done." I nod, feeling a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. "Thank you, Dan. I couldn't have done this without you." He smiles, patting my hand. "That's what friends are for, Marge. We'll get through this together, no matter what." The next few days are tense, with no sign of Eliza. I can't help but feel like the calm before the storm, knowing that she's out there somewhere, plotting her next move. I try to go about my daily routine, but I'm constantly on edge, jumping at every noise and shadow. Dan checks in on me regularly, offering his support and reassurance, but even his presence can't fully ease my fears. Late one night, I'm startled awake by the sound of shattering glass. I bolt up in bed, my heart pounding in my chest. I grab the baseball bat I've started keeping by my bedside and creep down the stairs, my hands shaking. As I round the corner into the living room, I see a figure standing by the broken window, silhouetted against the moonlight. I flip on the light switch, and my blood runs cold as I recognize Eliza's face, twisted with rage. "What are you doing here?" I demand, my voice trembling. "I thought I made it clear that you're not welcome in my home anymore." She laughs, a harsh, grating sound that sends shivers down my spine. "You really thought you could get rid of me that easily? I told you, Marge, you can't win against me. I always get what I want, one way or another." I grip the baseball bat tighter, trying to steady my nerves. "I'm not afraid of you, Eliza. I won't let you intimidate me anymore." She takes a step towards me, her eyes glinting with malice. "Oh, but you should be afraid, Marge. You have no idea what I'm capable of. I've ruined people's lives before, and I won't hesitate to do it again." I feel a surge of anger, fueled by the months of fear and frustration. I won't let you destroy my life, Eliza. I've worked too hard to build it, and I won't let you take it away from me. She lunges at me, her hands outstretched like claws. I swing the bat, feeling it connect with her shoulder with a sickening thud. She cries out in pain, stumbling backwards. "You bitch!" she screams, clutching her arm. "You'll pay for that!" I stand my ground, holding the bat in front of me like a shield. "No, Eliza, you'll pay for what you've done. I've given you every chance to change, to make things right, but you've thrown it all away. Now you'll face the consequences of your actions." She glares at me, her eyes filled with hatred. "This isn't over, Marge. I'll make you regret the day you ever crossed me." With that, she turns and flees out the broken window, disappearing into the night. I sink to the floor, my legs giving out beneath me as the adrenaline fades. I know that this is only the beginning, that Eliza won't give up until she's had her revenge. But I also know that I'm not alone in this fight. I have Dan, and the evidence we've gathered, and the strength of my own convictions. I pick up the phone and dial Dan's number, my hands still shaking. "She was here," I say when he answers, my voice hoarse with emotion. "Eliza broke into my house. I think it's time to take this to the police." Dan arrives within minutes, his face grim as he surveys the damage. "You did the right thing, Marge. We have enough evidence to put Eliza away for a long time. She won't be able to hurt you anymore." I nod, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. I never wanted things to come to this, but I know that I can't let Eliza's toxicity poison my life any longer. As the police arrive and begin taking statements, I feel a sense of clarity wash over me. I know that the road ahead won't be easy, but I also know that I'm ready to face whatever challenges come my way. I am Marge Thompson, and I will not be broken. In the days following Eliza's violent outburst, I find myself constantly looking over my shoulder, waiting for her to strike again. But as the weeks pass with no sign of her, I begin to wonder if perhaps she's finally given up. Still, I know better than to let my guard down completely. I meet with Dan regularly, discussing our plans to gather evidence against Eliza and bring her to justice. "I've called in some favors with my old contacts at the police department," Dan tells me over coffee one morning. "They're willing to help us set up surveillance and track Eliza's movements." I nod, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. "I just want this to be over, Dan. I'm tired of living in fear, always wondering when she's going to strike next." He reaches across the table and takes my hand, his eyes filled with understanding. "I know, Marge, but we're going to make sure she pays for what she's done. You're not alone in this." I smile, feeling a surge of gratitude for his unwavering support. "I don't know what I would do without you, Dan. You've been my rock through all of this." He grins, a mischievous glint in his eye. "Well, what are friends for if not to help take down evil daughter-in-laws?" We both laugh, the tension of the past few weeks momentarily lifted. It feels good to have a moment of levity amidst the chaos. Over the next few days, Dan and I worked tirelessly to gather evidence against Eliza. We set up hidden cameras around my house, hoping to catch her in the act of stealing or vandalizing. We also reach out to some of her former associates, people she's burned in the past. Many of them are more than willing to provide statements against her, eager for a chance at their own revenge. As the evidence mounts, I begin to feel a sense of hope, a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe, just maybe, we can finally put an end to Eliza's reign of terror. But even as we make progress, I can't shake the feeling that Eliza is still out there, watching and waiting for the right moment to strike. I find myself jumping at every noise, my heart racing at the slightest provocation. One evening, as I'm washing dishes in the kitchen, I hear a sound that makes my blood run cold. It's the creaking of a floorboard, the same one that always squeaks when someone steps on it. I freeze, my hands still submerged in the soapy water. I listen intently, straining to hear any other signs of movement. And then I hear it again, louder this time. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, moving towards the kitchen. I reach for my phone with shaking hands, ready to dial 911. But before I can even unlock the screen, a figure appears in the doorway, a silhouette backlit by the hall light. "Hello, Marge." Eliza's voice is cold, dripping with malice. "Did you really think you could get away from me that easily?" I back away, my heart pounding in my chest. Eliza, please, don't do this. We can talk about this, find a way to resolve things peacefully. She laughs, a harsh, grating sound that sends shivers down my spine. It's too late for that, Marge. You've pushed me too far, and now you're going to pay the price. She takes a step towards me, her eyes glinting with a dangerous light. I glance around frantically, looking for something, anything to use as a weapon. My gaze lands on a heavy cast-iron skillet sitting on the stove. I lunge for it, my fingers closing around the handle just as Eliza reaches for me. I swing with all my might, feeling the satisfying crunch of metal against bone. Eliza cries out in pain, stumbling backwards. You'll regret that, she hisses, clutching her bleeding face. I'll make you suffer for this, Marge. I'll destroy everything you love, everyone you care about. But even as she speaks, I feel a sense of calm wash over me. I know that I'm not alone, that I have Dan and the evidence we've gathered on my side. No, Eliza, I say, my voice steady and strong. You're the one who's going to pay for your crimes. I'm not afraid of you anymore. After the confrontation with Eliza, Dan and I know that we need to act fast. We can't risk her catching wind of our plans and disappearing before we can bring her to justice. We decide to set a trap, using my house as bait. I'll pretend to leave for a weekend trip, giving Eliza the perfect opportunity to break in and steal from me once again. But this time, we'll be ready for her. Dan helps me set up hidden cameras throughout the house, connected to a live feed that he can monitor from a nearby location. As I pack my bags and make a show of leaving, I feel a mix of nervousness and excitement. I know that this is a risky plan, but I also know that it's our best chance at catching Eliza red-handed. I drive to a nearby hotel, where I'll be staying for the next few days. Dan and I stay in constant communication, keeping each other updated on any developments. For the first day, there's no sign of Eliza. I try to distract myself with books and television, but I can't shake the feeling of anticipation, the sense that something big is about to happen. And then, on the second night, I get the call from Dan. She's here, he says, his voice tense with excitement. She just broke in through the back door. I rush to his location, my heart pounding in my chest. When I arrive, he's already got the video feed up on his laptop screen. I watch as Eliza moves through my house, her movements furtive and quick. She rifles through my drawers and cabinets, stuffing jewelry and cash into a backpack. But then, something unexpected happens. Eliza starts talking to herself, muttering under her breath as she goes about her business. At first, I can't make out what she's saying, but as I listen closer, I realize that she's revealing her entire plan, laying out the details of her scheme like a villain in a movie. Those idiots have no idea what's coming, she says, a smirk on her face. Once I've drained Marge's accounts and sold off her valuables, I'll disappear without a trace. They'll never be able to find me. I look at Dan, my eyes wide with shock. Are you getting this? I whisper, hardly daring to believe our luck. He nods, a grin spreading across his face. Every word, she's just sealed her own fate. We continue to watch as Eliza moves through the house, spilling more and more of her secrets with each passing minute. She brags about the people she's exploited, the lives she's ruined without a second thought. And then, just when I think it can't get any better, Eliza starts talking about her next target. That old lady down the street, the one with the yappy little dog? She's next on my list. I bet she's got a fortune stashed away in that tacky little house of hers. I feel a surge of anger, mixed with a grim sense of satisfaction. Eliza has no idea that she's just given us everything we need to put her away for good. As she finishes up her raid and slips out the back door, Dan is already on the phone with the police. We've got her, he says, his voice filled with triumph. We've got all the evidence we need. I sink back in my chair, feeling a rush of relief wash over me. It's finally over. After months of fear and uncertainty, I can finally see a light at the end of the tunnel. I know that there's still a long road ahead, that Eliza will likely fight the charges with everything she's got. But I also know that I'm not alone in this fight, that I have Dan and the law on my side. And for the first time in a long time, I allow myself to feel a glimmer of hope, a sense that maybe, just maybe, everything is going to be okay. The day of Eliza's arrest is a blur of activity. Police swarm my house, taking statements and collecting evidence. I watch as they lead her away in handcuffs, her face twisted with rage and disbelief. "You think this is over?" she screams, straining against the officer's grip. "I'll make you pay for this, Marge. I'll find a way to make you suffer, even if it's the last thing I do." But even as her threats ring in my ears, I feel a sense of calm wash over me. I know that she's powerless now, that the law is on my side. In the days that follow, I work with Dan to secure my home and my finances. We change the locks, install new security systems, and freeze my credit to prevent any further fraud. It's a long and tedious process, but with each step I feel a little bit safer, a little bit more in control of my own life. And then finally, the day of Eliza's trial arrives. I sit in the courtroom, my heart pounding as the evidence is presented piece by damning piece. The surveillance footage from my house is played for the jury, showing Eliza's brazen theft and her unwitting confession. Witness after witness takes the stand, testifying to her cruelty and her callousness, and through it all, Eliza sits stone-faced, her eyes blazing with hatred every time they meet mine. But in the end, the verdict is unanimous. Guilty on all counts, with a sentence that will keep her behind bars for decades to come. As the judge reads out the decision, I feel a rush of emotion wash over me. Relief, certainly, but also a sense of sadness, a realization of all that has been lost. I think of the young woman Eliza once was, the bright and beautiful girl who captured my son's heart. I think of all the pain and suffering she's caused, the lives she's ruined in her relentless pursuit of greed and power. And I know that, in the end, this is the only way it could have gone, the only way to stop her, to protect the people she would have hurt. As I leave the courtroom, Dan by my side, I'm surrounded by a sea of reporters and well-wishers, people I've never met, strangers who have followed my story and rooted for me every step of the way. I'm overwhelmed by their kindness, their support. I've spent so long feeling alone, feeling like I was fighting this battle by myself. But now, I realize that I was never really alone at all. In the weeks that follow, I start to piece my life back together. I reconnect with old friends, I take up new hobbies, I learn to find joy in the simple things again. And through it all, I carry with me the lessons I've learned, the strength I've found within myself. I know now that I am capable of standing up for myself, of fighting for what's right, no matter how hard it may be. One evening, as I sit on my porch with Dan, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and gold, he turns to me with a smile. "You know, Marge, you're one of the bravest people I've ever met," he says, his voice filled with warmth and admiration. I feel a blush creep into my cheeks, a flutter of something like happiness in my chest. "I don't know about that," I say, shaking my head. "I just did what I had to do." But even as I say it, I know that it's more than that. I know that I've found a strength within myself that I never knew I had, a resilience that has carried me through the darkest of times. And as I look out at the world before me, at the beauty and the promise of a new day, I know that I am ready for whatever comes next. Ready to face the future with courage and with hope, knowing that I am not alone, that I am loved and supported by the people who matter most. It's a new beginning, a chance to start fresh and to build a life that is truly my own. And I am ready to embrace it with open arms, ready to see what adventures lie ahead.
Watching the news, I was beside myself with worry. They were reporting that the plane my husband was on for his business trip had crashed. I couldn't get through to him, no matter how many times I tried calling. "Please, pick up." And then, as usual, I got an email from my husband saying, "Just landed." Oh, thank goodness. But my relief was short-lived when the news anchor stated, "There are no survivors." Huh? How can that be? Wasn't the plane safe after all? My name is Kathy. I live with my husband, Tyson, of 5 years, and our daughter, Julie, who's about to turn 3. I quit my job when I got pregnant, and now I'm a stay-at-home mom. Julie has gotten past her terrible twos and has recently started to be a big help around the house. Those terrible twos were tough. But now I'm enjoying parenting without the stress. As my relationship with my daughter grows stronger, life with Tyson has become somewhat dull. Lately, he's barely home, except to sleep. Maybe because he's so busy with work. Sometimes he comes home, smelling like women's perfume, which makes me wonder if he's been to a club or something. With all the sudden calls to work and weekend shifts, he hardly has any time to spend with Julie and me. "Does Daddy not like me anymore?" she would murmur, and I would hug her tight and stroke her head gently. "Of course not, sweetheart. Daddy's just really busy with work. He's working hard so that we can have this life together. Your birthday is on a Sunday this time, and he's promised to celebrate with us. So let's look forward to playing a lot with him then." Seeing her look so sad, I had pleaded with him to at least be there for her birthday.
"I'll definitely take the day off,"
he had promised, and I was looking forward to celebrating together as a family. Her birthday is next month. We're planning to celebrate with my in-laws, who live just a 15-minute drive away and are quite close to Julie. Tyson has a sister, Hannah, who has 2 kids, and they live in the same city. The grandparents love both their grandchildren equally, which is something I'm really grateful for, as I've heard that some favor their daughter's children over their daughter-in-laws. Some even urge the daughter-in-law to have a boy instead of a girl, so that he can carry on the family name. So one day, Tyson tells me,
"I have to go on a business trip overseas for 2 weeks, starting on the 8th next month."
I asked him to repeat himself. "Wait, an international business trip?"
"Yeah, from the 8th of next month, for 2 weeks. I'm flying to France. It's going to take over half a day by plane,"
he replied, seemingly annoyed. I couldn't hold back and confronted him. "You do remember that Julie's birthday is on the 10th, next month, right? You promised we'd celebrate together. I've already told her about it. Just today, she was feeling so sad, wondering if you didn't like her anymore. How can you break your promise to be here for our daughter's birthday?" It was unbearable to think of her feelings. I was seeing red.
"I can't help it. It's work. I wish I could celebrate with her too,"
he said, and I was taken aback. Looking at him, I could see the pain on his face. "Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I just got a little carried away because I feel so sorry for her." After I apologized, he patted my shoulder and said,
"Oh, I'll prepare a gift. So, ask her what she wants. My parents will be there, so she won't be lonely. And next year, I promise, we'll celebrate together for sure."
"Okay. You promise?" I pressed him, deciding to let it go this time. I'll have to make sure Julie doesn't feel too lonely without her dad. So, I'll go all out with the decorations and cooking. I talked to my in-laws about his business trip and asked if they could stay over at our place on her birthday. Then my mother-in-law, Mary, said, "It's unfortunate that he has to be away for Julie's birthday, but leave it to us. We'll make sure she'll have a great time. I already told Scott, and he started getting ready for the sleepover." Her response lifted my spirits. If only Julie would be a little happier with this. The next day I told her about Tyson's business trip abroad. She looked sad, and her eyes welled up with tears. "But, you know, Grandpa and Grandma said they'd stay over for your birthday." I tried to say cheerfully. At that moment, her face lit up. It seemed to lift her spirits a bit. The day after Tyson left for his trip, Mary called.
Kathy, do you need anything for tomorrow? I've got the presents ready and the cake ordered. Is there anything else you want? It must be hard preparing all by yourself with Tyson away. Just tell me if you need anything, okay? We'll come over early tomorrow.
I was so grateful for her thoughtfulness and immediately thanked her. Thank you, Mary. I just got back from shopping with Julie to pick out what she wanted. I've got the decorations ready too. So we're all set. Thanks for the presents and the cake.
It's no problem at all. It's fun to choose these things. Scott has been fidgety for a week now. I told him he's too eager.
She replied, and I couldn't help but smile. It's great to have such wonderful in-laws. Even without my husband, tomorrow is sure to be a fun day. After chatting for a while, Mary changed the subject.
By the way, has Tyson landed yet? Didn't he say he'd be moving to another location after he got there?
He mentioned he had to take a connecting flight. He should have landed by now, but I haven't heard from him yet. So maybe his flight's delayed. I replied, thinking to check the flight number he'd left with me once we hung up. Just then, her voice trembling, she said,
Kathy, was he flying to France?
I sensed something was wrong. Yes, but why?
Turn on the TV right now. They're saying a plane crashed in France on the news.
What? I turned on the TV in a hurry and saw an emergency broadcast of the crash site. I was so shocked that I dropped my cell phone. I heard Mary's scream and quickly picked it back up.
Stay calm, Kathy. We still don't know it's his flight.
You're right, I replied, though I was overwhelmed with anxiety. What if something had happened to him? While I was worried, the news anchor delivered the unbearable truth. It was the same aircraft model that my husband was on.
Mary, that's Tyson's flight. What?
What do we do?
Tyson.
I collapsed to my knees, feeling my mouth go dry as tears streamed down my face, unbidden.
Kathy.
Mary's loud voice pulled me back to reality.
Stay strong, Kathy. We don't know what's happened to Tyson yet. Try to get in touch with him. I'm on my way over right now, so stay calm. Okay, honey?
Okay. After hanging up with her, I immediately called Tyson, but all I heard was the hollow sound of the ringing tone. Please, no. This can't be happening. Why wouldn't he answer? Desperately, I typed a text to him, asking, "Are you okay?" Clutching my phone tightly, I stared at the screen until, to my relief, he texted back.
Just landed.
Oh, thank goodness. Tears of relief overflowed as I started to reply to his message. It was then that I heard these words from the TV I had left on.
There are no survivors.
Huh? No survivors? How can that be? That was supposed to be the same type of plane Tyson was on. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I stopped texting and made a phone call instead. But I couldn't get through at all. Why isn't he answering the phone? When I switched to text messages, I finally got a text back from him.
I just got to the airport, and there's a lot to do, like picking up luggage.
Seriously? He's not even thinking about how worried I am. I was getting increasingly agitated, a mix of anxiety and anger building up.
The news said your plane crashed. I was so worried. Just pick up the phone for a second. Let's do a video call so I can see your face.
I'm safe. The crash wasn't my flight. I'll call later. I have to get moving now.
He sent such a carefree text. After that, no matter how many texts I sent, he didn't reply. Ugh. Can't he see how worried I am? Well, at least I was able to confirm he's safe. But my mood completely soured when Mary called.
I just called Tyson's company before heading over. They said he's on extended leave. They were like, business trip abroad? It didn't seem like they knew what I was talking about.
Her words made me realize everything. So, that's it. The long business trip to France was a lie from the start. Had I ever felt such hatred towards my husband since we got married? Mary. I decided to tell her about everything. About him hardly ever coming home, showing no interest in the family, returning with the smell of women's perfume on him. I had been reluctant to suspect infidelity, just because of the perfume scent, and tried not to think about it. But now that he's taken a long leave and lied about a business trip, infidelity was the only thing that made sense. Mary was openly furious with my conclusion.
That idiot son of mine! It's us who were foolish to worry. Kathy, come over to our house. It must be tough to be there with just Julie.
I decided to take her up on her offer. Once the move settled down, Mary and Scott apologized to me again. Even Hannah, my sister-in-law, came to cheer me up after hearing about it. I was touched all over again by the kindness of my husband's family. Despite them being such good people, I couldn't help but wonder why Tyson was such a jerk. I ended up hiring a detective agency to gather evidence of his infidelity. Then I got a photo of him at the airport with his mistress. Unforgivable. So he really was cheating. 2 weeks later, Tyson finally called.
Hello, Kathy? Where are you? I just got back from my trip, but my key won't work. Can you come and unlock the door?
He must think I'm oblivious. His voice was so nonchalant. I decided to confront him with reality. Even if I came, it wouldn't open. I don't have a key. And even if I did, the old locks have probably been changed by now.
What? Changed? What are you talking about? You're Kathy, right?
I could tell he was flustered over the phone. We've moved out. I can't be a family with a cheating man who goes on an affair trip on our daughter's birthday.
What are you talking about?
My anger was rising as he played dumb. You think I don't know? I know everything. That you took a long leave from work, that you didn't go to France but the Maldives instead.
Calm down, Kathy. There's some mistake. Oh, right. There was a colleague who took a long leave. Maybe you're confusing me with him?
Are you kidding me? You think you can fool me with that? I'm underestimated, that's for sure. Well, yeah, of course. You've been claiming overtime, working on weekends, all while cheating. I couldn't contain my anger and raised my voice. Deep down, I wanted to lash out and hurl insults. But I was so overwhelmed with emotion, simply stating the facts was all I could manage. I'm divorcing you. You're definitely going to pay alimony and child support. Then I heard him shout.
Wait.
What now? I snapped back and he stammered in response.
I'm sorry. I did have an affair, sure. But it was just for fun. The truth is, Kathy, you're the only one I love.
That makes me sick. I retorted, hearing his voice fade, as if vanishing. My words seemed to have an effect. But I had more to say. Nice acting job. But how can I take seriously the words of a man who ditches his daughter's birthday for a cheating getaway? Did you think saying it was just for fun makes it excusable? Cut the crap. I'll never forgive you or your mistress. His tone shifted sharply to irritation as he retorted.
Huh? I'm here apologizing and you're giving me attitude. Who do you think provides the lifestyle you're living? If we divorce, you're the one who's going to suffer. Stop making a fuss about an affair. And enough with the birthday nagging. Is it really that important?
Then my sister-in-law Hannah snatched the phone from me. Who would want to stay with someone who can't even cherish his own daughter's birthday?
Huh? Hannah? Why are you with Kathy?
He seemed surprised by her sudden involvement. But that wasn't the end. There were more surprises to come.
I'm here too.
Mom? I'm here as well. Dad too?
At this point, I revealed our ruse to Tyson. We figured you'd call once you realized you couldn't get in the house, so we were all waiting. Julie's with Hannah's husband. Then Scott shouted,
You're no son of mine. Don't ever think of stepping foot in this house again.
Mary and Hannah began their onslaught, one after the other.
Your stuff is stored in the shed. Get it if you need to. If it's not gone by tomorrow, I'm throwing it all out.
Tyson, how could you do this to Kathy? Disgusting. The worst. Don't ever come near us again.
No, just wait. I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me. I apologize, so please, don't say such things.
His family's words clearly wounded him. He sounded like he was about to cry, desperately pleading. But nobody was willing to forgive him. I yelled at him. Don't you understand how unforgivable it is to be cheated on just because you had a whim? You've been cheating for a long time. Don't you dare lie to me at this point. Enough with your cheating, jerk. If you don't agree to divorce, I'll take you to court. Then he panicked at the mention of court and quickly agreed to the divorce. The next day, Tyson showed up at his parents' doorstep to apologize, but all he got were cold stares. Unable to stand it, he took only the bare essentials packed in the shed and left. Afterward, I demanded a lump sum in damages from him and his mistress. Once the mistress realized she'd been caught and faced with a demand for damages, she dumped Tyson.
I've left Tyson, so forgive me.
But I had no intention of dropping the claim. She ended up taking a job in the night industry because of her debts. My husband, unable to bear the shame at work, chose to resign. However, he needed money for the alimony and child support. He's now working all day, with no time to play. Meanwhile, I'm still living with my in-laws. They continue to treat Julie and me with kindness, just as before. I hope to repay their goodness someday by doing everything I can to the best of my ability. About half a year after getting married, an event struck my life out of the blue. I was saddled with caring for my father-in-law, who became bedridden after an accident. As I struggled with caregiving for the first time, my husband said to me,
You handle my dad's care. We're going to relax in Hawaii.
He and my mother-in-law left for Hawaii, leaving me behind. But they were unaware of the tragedy their decision would later cause. My name is Adeline. I'm 30 years old. I've always loved cooking, so after college, I joined a major restaurant chain. 8 years in, I'm now in charge of developing new products in the planning department. I met Will, who would later become my husband, 2 years ago. I happened to go to my favorite bar alone, and since it was full, I was seated at the counter next to Will. We struck up a conversation through the bar's owner and found out we were the same age. Our chat quickly blossomed, and we ended up exchanging contact information. Since then, Will would regularly ask me out for meals, and we started dating. I found myself drawn to his bright and funny personality, and it seemed he felt the same. Our relationship naturally progressed, and after dating for a year, we tied the knot 6 months ago. Currently, we're enjoying newlywed life in an apartment halfway between our workplaces. Both of us working means sometimes skimping on housework, but he always said with a smile,
Don't worry about the housework being perfect. I'm happy just being with you, Adeline.
I wish I had time to make a proper dinner, though.
Oh, it's fine. Just having dinner with the person I love is happiness enough for me. That's what I think.
Thanks. You're always so kind, babe.
Only to you, honey. I want to be super kind to the person I love.
That makes me happy. I'm so glad I became your wife.
Me too. Having a wife like you makes me super happy.
Even half a year into our marriage, our relationship was so good that we could have such conversations. I thought our happy days would continue forever. But those happy days suddenly became out of reach. One day, when I came home from work, Will was already in the living room. Usually, whoever gets home first would greet the other. But the atmosphere was strangely heavy that day. He was frowning at his phone, and I tentatively spoke to him. Hey, you. I'm home. Is everything okay?
Hi, babe. Welcome back. I was just zoning out.
You looked really worried. Did something happen?
Well, I just got a call from Mom.
From your mother?
Dad had an accident.
What? I was so shocked. I couldn't quite process his words. But we couldn't just sit around at home. I held his hand and said, What are you sitting around for? We need to go to your dad right now.
No, we can't right now.
Why not?
Dad's not in a state to be seen right now.
You mean his condition is really bad?
Yeah, Mom says she'll stay with him until he settles down. So, we don't need to go.
Oh. His words let me know there was nothing I could do at the moment. I let go of his hand and sat down on the sofa as well. I hope he's okay. Will remained silent. His silence only amplified my anxiety. Just the other day, my father-in-law, Derek, has celebrated his 65th birthday. He always took care of his health and was the picture of wellness, going hiking and golfing on weekends. He runs a company, and my husband works for him. It must be tough for him to see his father, who's also his boss, like this. He was incredibly down that day, which was hard to imagine, given his usual cheerfulness. A week later, we were finally able to visit Derek. As Will and I headed to his hospital room, he lay there with a weak smile. "Derek, how are you feeling?" He scratched his head apologetically in response to my question.
"Oh, Adeline, I feel bad that I've made you guys worry."
"Don't be silly. I'm just relieved that you're safe."
Huh, it's nice to hear you say that. I can talk, slowly but surely. I'm okay.
"I'm glad. But please, take it easy for a while, okay?" His face lit up with joy at my words. Seeing his smile, I felt a bit relieved. It seems the accident damaged his spinal cord, and he still has some paralysis. The plan for treatment is to stay in the hospital for about 2 months of rehab, and then see how things go. He'll need regular rehab after he's discharged. While he is away, Will take over as the acting president of the company. Although it's only temporary, the idea of my husband becoming the president feels strange. As I watched the guys talk, my mother-in-law Paulina appeared in the hospital room. She called me over to the corner of the room and spoke to me with a tone dripping with sarcasm.
"Hey, Adeline. You do understand your place, don't you?"
What do you mean?"
"Well, just because Will is becoming president doesn't mean you'll have it easy. Understand? Don't get too comfortable with him being in that position. Okay?"
"There's no need to worry about that. I work and earn my own salary. Thank you."
We'll see about that. After all, you approached Will knowing he was the son of the president, didn't you? Shame on you."
She scoffed at me, casually tossing out such accusations. But that was just her imagination, not the truth. I found out Will was the president's son well after we started dating. From the beginning of our marriage, Paulina has consistently treated me with this kind of disdain. I didn't want to be disliked based on a misunderstanding, so I corrected her on the spot. "Paulina, I didn't approach him for his money. I fell for him because of who he is as a person."
"Sure. Like I believe anything that comes out of your mouth."
"I'm telling you the truth. You got the whole thing wrong."
"Whatever. No matter what you say, I will never approve of you."
"How could you say that?" Perhaps noticing our conversation, Derek asked,
"What's going on?"
She dismissed it with a "nothing" and glared at me. It was clear from her behavior that she doted on Will. She probably sees me as a gold digger who got close to her son for his money after just a year of dating. She has been cold to me since we went to greet her for her marriage. But to think she would speak to me like this, even with her husband in this condition? To complicate matters, my husband is also very fond of his mother. A few days later, he suddenly said something unexpected.
"Adeline, Dad's probably going to be discharged from the hospital in 2 months. That's when we're moving back to my folks' place."
Wait a minute. Why all of a sudden?
Mom suggested it. She said it's about time We all live together. Come on, you know it would be tough on Dad if Mom's by herself, right?
Yeah, but springing this on me all of a sudden is a bit much.
What are you talking about? We should be grateful. Mom's offering for us all to be together.
I struggled to find the words to express what he meant by grateful. I stood there, perplexed, while he firmly stated his case.
Anyway, it's already been decided. Start packing so we're ready to move in together.
Hold on. If we move to your family's place, our commute will become a hassle. We specifically chose an apartment midway between our workplaces for a reason.
It's only about a 15-minute drive from the house. If anything, it's closer for you. You're lucky.
It seemed that he and his mother had already settled the matter of living together. Despite my repeated attempts to put off the idea, he never listened to what I had to say. Recently, he had become more devoted to his mother than ever before. At the same time, his attitude toward me had grown increasingly harsh with each passing day. Today was no different, as he came to me with another nagging lecture.
Hey, how's the packing going? I can't take time off on moving day, so you'll have to cover for me, okay? You'll also handle the caregiving and the housework. Don't put any strain on Mom.
The stress of moving preparations, along with a peak period at work, was taking a mental toll on me. 2 months later, we successfully moved, and Derek was discharged from the hospital. But without a moment's rest, I was thrust into the unfamiliar world of caregiving. I woke at 4 a.m. to prepare breakfast and do the laundry. Once that was done, I would hurry to help Derek with his morning massage and getting dressed. I had to eat before Will and Paulina, and right after finishing, I helped Derek with his meal. Only after everyone had breakfast could I finally head to work. Despite my efforts in caregiving and household chores, it seemed I could never satisfy Paulina. Every morning, as I tried to leave for work, she would invariably hold me back.
Adeline, dear, could I have a word?
I'm sorry, I really need to get going.
Don't you get smart with me, young lady. I wanted to express some concerns about breakfast.
I'll listen when I get back, but for now, I really must.
Don't talk back to me. Sit down.
But please.
Sit down now.
With her shout, I started getting a throbbing headache. Lately, every unreasonable lecture from Will or his mother triggered palpitations and headaches. Responding would only make matters worse, though. Remaining silent was the quickest way to end the confrontation. Because of her lectures, I was always nearly late for work. Having never been late before, my colleagues began to express concern. 3 months had passed since Derek's discharge, and my days were busier than ever. After returning from work, I had to immediately start preparing dinner. One evening, rushed by the lack of time, Will criticized the meal I hurriedly put together.
Hey, Adeline. What the hell is this? I come home tired, and this is what I get?
I'm sorry, I had to step away to wash Derek, so I just made stew.
Ugh. Make something more substantial next time, will you?
Paulina just smirked at my silence. Feeling dejected, I went to help Derek with his evening routine. Noticing my demeanor, he expressed concern.
Adeline, dear, you don't look well. Are you all right?
Oh, yes, I'm fine. Just a little busy with work.
Are you sure that's all? I've been hearing a lot of shouting from my wife and Will.
It's all my fault. I'm just not very efficient at things.
Well, I don't see it that way.
To keep him from worrying, I forced the biggest smile I could manage and lied. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to keep it together. Honestly, I wanted to escape from here for so long. But now I kept thinking, what would happen to him if I left? With that thought, I just couldn't bring myself to abandon everything. As the end of the year approached, I got some time off from work, but that just meant I was stuck with more chores at home. It was on New Year's Eve that Paulina dropped a bombshell.
Mom and I are going to Hawaii.
What? Hawaii?
Yeah, Mom and I have been planning this.
Wait a minute. How can you even think of that with your dad in this condition?
It's fine. You're here, right? You're off work. You can handle it.
My husband and his mother had this smug look on their faces as they showed off their huge suitcases. They seemed to find my bewildered state amusing, barely holding back their laughter. On the day of the trip, as they were leaving the house, Will casually said,
Take good care of Dad. We're going to chill in Hawaii. Good luck on your own.
They laughed and closed the door behind them. That's when something inside me just snapped. Good luck? Take care of him? What is he even talking about? Why do I, the daughter-in-law, have to do everything by myself? That's it. When they get back, I'm definitely getting a divorce. I felt much better when I said that to myself, and I decided to devote myself to caring for Derek while they were gone. Since I was going to get a divorce anyway, I didn't bother with the housework. The next day, as usual, I prepared breakfast for Derek and took a towel and clothes to his room. That's when he greeted me with a smile.
Happy New Year, Adeline.
Happy New Year to you too, Derek.
Where are Will and Paulina? It seemed like there was some trouble last night.
They went on a trip to Hawaii.
Hawaii?
He asked, a look of confusion spreading across his face, followed by a deep sigh. I didn't know how to respond, so I stayed quiet. Then, unexpectedly, my bedridden father-in-law sat up. What in the world?
Let's get started. Adeline, I owe you an apology.
Wait. Are you sure you're okay?
I've been able to get up by myself for a few days now. I was just waiting for the right time to show everyone. I never thought those two would give me such a perfect opportunity.
What do you mean? Then he started to explain with a sly grin. Apparently he had been trying to do something about the situation where I was the only one being overworked. He'd asked his wife and son for help, but they completely ignored him. Moreover, he received a call from the company's executive vice president, reporting that my husband, who was acting as president, was doing whatever he wanted. It seemed likely that they used company funds for their trip. So, Derek got in touch with people at the company and had them monitor my husband's actions. It turned out that his work attitude was lazy, and the employees were all angry. Derek was planning to return as president after the new year, and my husband was going to be demoted back to a regular employee. But after this incident, Derek decided to fire him. Regarding the house, it was actually in my father-in-law's name. He'd made plans to change the locks while they were away, so when they returned, they wouldn't be able to get in. A week later, there was a ruckus at the front door and the intercom started buzzing non-stop. My husband and his mother had returned from Hawaii and were trying to force the door open. I responded to them through the intercom monitor. Welcome back. How was the trip?
Adeline, you're home? I can't get the door open. Open it quick.
Sorry, but I can't. Your father told me not to let you in.
What? What are you talking about?
So, did you guys have a good time on that trip, funded by the company's money?
What? How did you...
Will, with a look on his face that screamed,
How do you know about that?
Left me unable to help but burst into laughter as I watched their expressions on the monitor. Just then, Derek, who had been listening in, chimed in.
Aha, just as I thought. You did use the company's money, didn't you? Dad? I thought you couldn't get up. Thanks to Adeline, I've been getting help with my rehab from Adeline every day. I've been able to get up for a few days now. I've also heard about your terrible behavior at the company from the executive director. The executive director? You're kidding, right? No, that's not true, Dad. I didn't. You didn't what? You're incompetent, and you're fired. Pack your stuff and leave the company now.
Will started to plead with tears in his eyes, visible through the monitor.
Adeline, honey, you wouldn't abandon me, right?
To his pleading, I stated firmly, Are you kidding me? Do you have any idea how I've felt since the day you decided we would move in here? You and your mother took me for granted, pushing his care onto me. Do you understand how hard that was for me?
Calm down, Adeline. I'm sorry, I'll apologize.
Your apologies are worthless. It became clear to me when you all left for that trip. Being a family with you is just a waste of time. I'm going to live on my own. I've had it with a mama's boy like you. At my words, he stumbled backward, but his mother supported him immediately. The scene was a pitiful display of a mother and son. They kept screaming, "Open the door," but Derek never responded to their pleas. With the help of the lawyer contracted by Derek's company, our divorce was finalized. Since then, I haven't seen them. Rumor has it the mother and son duo both are unemployed and unable to rent a place, living in cheap motels and picking up day labor. It's a far cry from their previous lives, but well-deserved punishment, if you ask me. After the divorce was finalized, Derek said to me,
I'll hire a housekeeper, so go live your life.
Taking him up on his offer, I moved closer to my workplace. Now I spend my days comfortably and fulfilled. I can never thank my father-in-law enough for saving me. Somehow, someday, I intend to repay this kindness. I woke up at 2 a.m. to the sound of someone whispering. It sounded like my husband and daughter talking. Curious about what they were discussing, I pretended to be asleep and listened in.
We'll put this in Mom's breakfast tomorrow. It's medicine to make her feel better.
Really? Will it make Mom feel better?
Of course.
I was shocked to hear their conversation. What on earth was my husband thinking? And then, the next morning, believe it or not, he was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. Sensing his scheme, my daughter and I decided to take certain actions. Please enjoy the surprising twists and turns that unfold next. My name is Ashley, and I'm 35 years old. I work hard at my job every day. My family consists of my husband, Carl, and our 6-year-old daughter, Emma. Despite being busy, we enjoyed a happy life as a family of 3. Carl has loved cooking since he was a kid and had just opened his dream restaurant. Since it's a new venture, we didn't have many customers yet. I wished I could help out at the restaurant. But since its income wasn't stable yet, I had to continue working to support us financially. I'm sorry, I can't be of more help. especially when things are tough. He shook his head vigorously.
Don't apologize. Thanks to you, we can manage even if the restaurant is running at a loss. I'm sorry for the burden. Just wait. I'll make the restaurant successful.
I'm looking forward to it, honey. Just don't overwork yourself. Please. I responded, always supporting his dream. Little did I know that something unexpected was about to happen. It had been over 2 years since Carl started the restaurant, but the business wasn't really taking off. Perhaps that's why he began spending more time there and hardly ever came home. He had hired a young waitress, but that wasn't enough. He seemed to be handling everything from prep work to cooking and cleanup mostly by himself. I was worried about his health as he was working day and night. I offered to help a few times, but he always gently refused, saying,
Don't worry about me.
Our daughter Emma also seemed sad, missing her dad. I didn't want him to overexert himself, but if he said he didn't need help, there was nothing I could do. I was also worried about Emma. It's common for parents to worry that their child might be falling behind others in development. But my concern was the opposite. Emma was exceptionally smart, without any bias from me. She started talking normally at 1, mastered the alphabet at 3, read picture books by herself, and could nearly write sentences at 4. By 5, she was using my computer and smartphone. And at 6, she started reading foreign languages and looking up meanings on her own. To my husband, who rarely saw her, she just seemed like a normal child, unaware of her abilities. But I worried that her intelligence might be used for something bad. That's why I had told her not to show off her smarts too much outside. I thought about discussing her with Carl, but decided against it, not wanting to bother him in his busy state. This decision would later prove to be the right one. One day, my office unexpectedly closed due to a minor fire in another company on a different floor of our building. The sprinklers went off, soaking everything. Water even started leaking into our office. We had to move important documents and cover computers, resulting in a big commotion. Apparently, the fire was caused by a forgotten cigarette by an employee upstairs. What a nuisance for us. Until the repairs were completed, our office was closed. This sudden day off left me feeling a bit lost. I considered picking up Emma from daycare, then had a thought. This was the perfect chance to help at Carl's restaurant. I headed there right away. Thinking it rude to show up unannounced, I called Carl, but he didn't answer. He must have been too busy. When I got to the restaurant, I felt something was off. The flowers outside were wilted, and the place was eerily quiet. Inside, there were no customers. Then, I heard laughter from the kitchen, Carl's voice, and the waitresses. They seemed to be having a great time. I couldn't quite explain it, but I had a bad feeling, like a woman's intuition. Peeking into the kitchen, I saw Carl and the waitress goofing around, too close for a boss and an employee. He was touching her cheek, almost ready to kiss her. I couldn't help but call out, "Hey, what are you two doing?" He turned to me with a startled look, his face turning pale, and quickly stepped away from the waitress. She noticed me and hurriedly moved to another part of the restaurant. Their behavior seemed suspiciously like they were trying to hide something. He gave me a forced smile.
"Oh, Ashley? I'm surprised you came by unexpectedly. What's up? You know, I have my own schedule here. It's really inconvenient when you come without an appointment."
The office had a bit of trouble, so we closed. I thought I'd check on the restaurant. There aren't any customers. I thought you were busy since you didn't answer your phone.
Well, customers usually don't come until lunchtime. It's pretty slow around this time. I didn't notice the phone ringing.
He looked uncomfortable, his eyes darting around. I had a lot I wanted to say to him, but I had planned to help out, so I tried to do just that. But he said,
"It's okay. We have enough help. Customers will be coming soon,"
and practically pushed me out of the restaurant. His strange behavior left me feeling uneasy. Later, I waited at home for his return, but he never came back that day. After putting Emma to bed, I stayed up, waiting for him. The next morning, Carl sneaked back home early. I caught him trying to slip into the living room and called out from behind, "Welcome back. You're being awfully careful just to enter the house."
"Whoa. You're awake? I thought you'd be sleeping."
He avoided eye contact with me the whole time, looking pretty awkward. Annoyed, I confronted him about his shady behavior with a waitress at his restaurant. "What's the deal with the waitress you hired? You two seemed pretty cozy. And yesterday, you were about to kiss her, weren't you?"
"Hey, don't talk nonsense. She's just an employee. Yesterday, she said she got something in her eye, and I was just trying to help her out."
I didn't believe a word he said, but without proof, I couldn't press the issue further. So I apologized. "Seems like I misunderstood. Sorry about that." Changing the subject, I asked about the restaurant. His expression turned serious.
"To be honest, the business is struggling. We're not getting enough customers and are operating at a loss. If this continues, we might have to close. I'm planning to talk to the bank about a loan."
Hearing this, I felt disheartened. His restaurant wasn't doing well, and we were already cutting corners everywhere. And now, we might end up in debt too. Despite my gloom, I had to stay upbeat in front of Emma, our daughter. Then one day he suggested,
"Let's go on a family trip. Looks like we might get the loan from the bank. I think we can take a break and make some great memories before things get busy again."
Indeed, we hadn't been out much due to the restaurant's troubles. Hearing about the trip, Emma was even more excited than I was. Thinking it'd be a nice break, I agreed to the trip. Our relationship had been strained lately, so maybe this could mend things. So we set off on a 2-night, 3-day family trip. The first day at the amusement park was fun. Emma was happy. Carl was smiling, and even I managed to enjoy myself, putting aside my troubled thoughts. After a full day at the park, we stayed at a nearby hotel. It was spacious, and the dinner was lavish. Relaxed, I fell asleep, talking to Emma about what we should do the next day. At 2 a.m., I suddenly woke up to Carl and Emma whispering. Curious about what they were discussing, I pretended to be asleep and listened in.
Listen, tomorrow we'll put this medicine in Mom's breakfast. She's been so tired from work, right? This is a nutritional supplement.
Mom will get better? Yay! But why keep it a secret? Just tell her it's a health supplement.
This medicine needs to be taken in large amounts. She wouldn't like that, so it's kind of a surprise. She'll be happier if it seems like a gift from you. Once she's better, we'll tell her it's a health supplement.
Their suspicious conversation made me tense. Any health supplement that needs to be hidden doesn't sound legitimate. What was he planning? Pretending to sleep, I heard his snores. Then Emma whispered,
Mom, you're awake, right?
Confused, I sat up. She handed me something.
I want you to see this.
Through her, I learned about his scheme. He had betrayed us. That jerk. The next morning, we began eating the fancy breakfast prepared in our room. Despite its delicious appearance, I couldn't taste much due to my nerves. Emma happily munched on her bread, exclaiming,
This is so good.
Carl smirked as he watched me eat. What's up? I asked. He just smiled, saying,
Nothing.
He probably thought his plan was working. Just you wait. About 15 minutes later, he suddenly started suffering. He foamed at the mouth, writhing on the floor, scratching his chest. He collapsed. I called for help, saying, My husband has collapsed. An ambulance rushed him to the hospital, where a stomach wash saved him. The doctor said he had ingested a certain drug, meant for animals, not humans. The doctor wondered where he had gotten it. Later, in his hospital room, Carl looked utterly confused.
Ashley, aren't you feeling sick or nauseous?
No, I'm perfectly fine.
How can that be? Emma, what happened to our agreement?
Carl, now desperate, confronted Emma. He couldn't even bother coming up with excuses in his state. She smiled sweetly and said,
Mom's full of energy, so she didn't need the supplement. I put it in your food instead. But you lied, Dad. Instead of getting better, you ended up here.
What?
He was shocked. She knew from the start that the supplement wasn't really for nutrition. I managed to figure out that the pills weren't for humans, but I didn't know exactly what they were. On a hunch, I slipped them into Carl's food.
And Dad, you were lying to me and Mom. I checked your phone while you were sleeping and found lots of pictures of you with some woman I don't know.
That night, she had handed me Carl's cell phone. She'd figured out his password from his notes. The phone was full of pictures of him and his mistress, some in their underwear, others hugging tightly. There was no denying it. He had been cheating with the waitress at his restaurant. Just a colleague. Huh. To make matters worse, he had been discussing with his mistress over email about how to get rid of me and cash in on my life insurance. Emma knew all about it. He stared at her in disbelief.
How could a 6-year-old child like you do all this?
Carl, having been away from home for so long, didn't realize how smart she was. He thought tricking her and poisoning me would be a piece of cake. Poor you, not knowing your own child's intelligence. Can you explain what this is all about, right here in front of us? I demanded, glaring at him. He turned pale and started mumbling an explanation.
I had no choice. I was drowning in debt.
He'd been lying to me. His restaurant had been deserted, not just during lunchtime, but always. The debt kept piling up, and in desperation, he planned to poison me and pay off everything with a life insurance. What a bold plan. You'd think it was something out of a movie or a TV show. If I had died, wouldn't the police investigation have easily uncovered the truth? Or was he so blinded by money that he couldn't even think that far ahead? As I sighed, he suddenly trembled. In a fawning voice, he pleaded,
I was wrong. When I'm discharged, I'll work hard and break things off with her. I got persuaded by her to do such a stupid thing, but I've realized you're the only one for me, Ashley.
I was disgusted by his self-centered words. Persuaded by her? Did he really think we could start over after trying to harm me? My voice grew harsh. Don't be ridiculous. Of course we're getting divorced. I'm claiming alimony and child support. And I'm reporting this to the police. He went pale. He began to kneel on his hospital bed.
Please, spare me that. If the police get involved, my restaurant is done for. After all the support you've given. Are you going to ruin it now? And Emma will grow up with a single parent. Is that what you want?
That was the last straw for me. He made it sound like what he had done wasn't a big deal. And he had the nerve to use Emma to convince me. Shut up. Do you think you have the right to say that after betraying me, cheating with a waitress, and trying to poison me? You're an idiot.
But that's because...
The worst part is that you lied to Emma and tried to make her an accomplice in a crime. Deceiving your own daughter? You don't deserve to be her father. Stay away from me and her forever. With that, Emma and I left the hospital room, ignoring Carl's desperate calls from behind. Afterward, we divorced. Carl and his mistress were arrested and became ex-convicts. I claimed alimony and child support from him. Selling his restaurant wasn't enough to cover it, and he ended up in debt again. Released from police custody, he was disowned by his parents. His mistress managed to pay off her debts by borrowing from her family, but she was also disowned. Carl and his mistress soon split up. From what I hear, they both lead miserable lives now. Let them suffer and learn their lesson. As for me, I've returned to my parents' home with Emma, living peaceful days. Emma being so intelligent might face more challenges than other kids, but I'll be there for her, supporting and watching her grow. A husband who is rarely home and who loves his sister-in-law and niece more than his own daughter. And yet, he has never said such a terrible thing. Until now.
I should stop being the father of an ugly daughter and become the father of my beautiful niece instead.
I'll never forget the look on my daughter's face when she heard those words. I can't take it anymore. I stood up for my precious daughter. My name is Denise, 37 years old, a part-time housewife. I have a husband of the same age, Garrett, and a 10-year-old daughter, Wendy. My husband is an ordinary businessman, and my daughter attends the local public elementary school. We are an ordinary family, I guess. There is one thing that is unusual. The relationship between my husband and his sister. They are very close for siblings of the opposite sex. Even though I have an older brother, I still have a hard time understanding how close they are. I value my family more than my brother, and my brother is of the same opinion. My brother and I see each other at family gatherings, but we never think of meeting alone. Nor do I want to have dinner with him or travel with him. I guess that's just the way it is. My husband and sister-in-law are different. Oh, are you having dinner with Hilda again? Hilda is my husband's younger sister and my sister-in-law. It was 7 p.m. and I had already finished preparing dinner. Then my husband called me, and I couldn't help but yell at him. Why are you suddenly telling me that you're going out to eat dinner? I've already prepared dinner. He's not sorry on the other end of the phone. I can imagine my husband smiling.
What choice do I have?
You should have told me earlier.
It has to be today in the first place.
What about tomorrow?
Hilda only has time today. She has to take her in to school tomorrow.
That's their business. We have our own reasons, too.
It's not like they're bothering you. If you put the food in the fridge, I'll eat it tomorrow.
Then he hung up the phone. That's enough. I'm sure you housewives can understand my frustration, but this kind of thing really pisses me off. Why can't he just tell me sooner? Why can't they do it another day? I would forgive it if it was just once in a while, or if my sister-in-law had a serious problem, but she doesn't have any problems. They see each other too often, not just occasionally. Even on weekends and holidays. My husband seems to really love his sister, who is 5 years younger than him, and is always happy to answer her requests. This is my imagination, but it seems that my husband gives my sister-in-law an allowance every time he sees her, which is also the reason why my daughter once told my husband,
Daddy, I really need something, so please, give me an allowance.
It was rare for her to do that. To which my husband replied,
What? An allowance? Oh, I gave it to Corinne the other day. Oh no, never mind. I don't have money right now, so go ask your mother.
I didn't miss hearing his answer. You've never given Wendy an allowance, but you're giving it to your niece? By the way, my daughter's allowance is currently paid out of my part-time job. My husband only pays for the mortgage and utilities. Other than that, I pay for the food and other expenses. As a matter of course, our family budget is tight every month. When I ask my husband to pay our living expenses,
I'm strapped for money with the mortgage and the utility bills. I need the money for company and other things.
He's very curt about it. Your social life isn't with the company, is it? If you give your sister-in-law and niece allowance and buy stuff for them every time you see them, you'll have to spend money. One day after spending many frustrating days with my husband's attitude, I heard that my sister-in-law had divorced. Some of you may be surprised to know that my sister-in-law is not single. The reason for the divorce was a personality disorder, but as my sister-in-law meets my husband every day, so I can imagine the reasons for the divorce. Still, I hoped that the divorce would make him feel something or change his mind. I was a fool for thinking that.
Now I can see her without hesitation.
My husband said that, and in front of me too. No. You've been seeing each other for years. How are you going to meet with her any more than that? I was wondering about that when, to my surprise, they started to meet each other not only on weekdays but also on holidays. Are you going out with Hilda and Corinne again? You should go out with your own daughter once in a while. But his reply was,
You know, it's so boring to have your daughter with you all the time. Hilda's divorced, and she and Corinne are lonely. I should be there to protect them.
I was really pissed off when he said that. What's so boring about being with your daughter? I know Hilda divorced at her own risk. If she felt lonely, why didn't she make an effort to get closer to her husband? Instead, she was seeing you every day, eating with you, and getting an allowance. So why didn't you just leave her? I couldn't keep my mouth shut either. Do you think Wendy doesn't miss you? Don't you need to protect her? My husband was scared for a moment.
I don't need to protect her because you're so strong-minded.
I'm tired of talking to him. He's not my husband anymore. It's nothing. He's gone. That doesn't mean it's okay with my daughter.
Dad, are you with Aunt Corinne again?
Yeah, this time it's a trip.
What? A trip? You mean you're going to leave me and Mom alone and take Auntie instead of us?
I couldn't answer that question. It hurts me to see my daughter in tears. Maybe it's not good to leave her alone because it's too much trouble. Running away from talking with my husband is not good for my daughter. I decided to talk to my husband, but he was not home, coming home late every day and eating dinner at his sister's house. I decided to let it go, but my daughter misses eating with her father. When he finally comes home, my husband says he is tired and practically shuts himself in the room. Even on holidays, he is gone in the morning. One day, I was having enough of a headache. It was a holiday and my husband was home in the morning. That's unusual. I told him with a bit of sarcasm that he was home, and he went to lie down on the sofa with the same sarcastic look on his face.
Corinne has an event at school today. Well, we'll have another day off. No, I don't mean it like that, but, well, it's just right.
Today's the day we can have a heart-to-heart talk. So I sit down to face my husband. Listen, I need to talk to you. Don't you think your daughter Wendy is cute?
Huh? What all of a sudden? I think she's cute.
Her husband, momentarily relieved by her words, continues, not reading the atmosphere.
But Corinne is hundreds of times prettier.
I froze when he said that. Corinne is prettier? Somehow I managed to squeeze my voice out. My husband, oblivious to my state of mind, is grinning at the screen of his phone.
Oh man, Corinne is really pretty. She's going to be a middle school student next year, right? Maybe she should apply for modeling or something. She's pretty like Hilda. I bet she'll get in.
My husband showed me his cell phone's screen. It was a picture of the three of them. What is this? You have a picture of you, Hilda, and Corinne on your cell phone instead of a picture of our family?
Of course not, right? Hilda's family too.
Huh?
The other day, one of my colleagues saw this picture. He told me I have such a beautiful wife and daughter. I was so happy I said, "You must be jealous."
I froze again. A colleague at your work? You mean he saw this picture and you told them it was your wife and daughter? I was more shocked that my husband didn't deny that they are not his wife and daughter than I was shocked that the people at work misunderstood completely. Then, what are we?
Honestly speaking, Wendy is not so cute. She's rather ugly from a third person's point of view.
Do you even know what you're saying? My husband's mouth doesn't stop moving, not noticing that my voice is getting lower.
Huh? What are you talking about? I know what I'm talking about. You know, I'm really thinking. I feel so bad that sweet Corinne doesn't have a father.
I'm too dumbfounded to say anything. Just then I heard a bang and looked at the door in a hurry. To my surprise, there stood my daughter Wendy. The pale look on her face told me that she had heard what was said. I panicked and gestured to my husband to shut up, not wanting her to hear anymore. You don't have to talk about it now. We'll talk about it later. But it was too late.
I'll stop being a father to ugly Wendy and become a father to beautiful Corinne.
The air is tense, but my husband is still smiling and staring at his phone. I glare at him, but he doesn't notice. I look fearfully at the door and hear footsteps running away. Wendy! I hurried after her, only to find my daughter lying on the bed in her room, crying.
I hate him. I hate Dad.
Wendy, calm down. It's okay. It's okay. I hug her tightly and soothe her back gently. I'm angry at myself for saying it's okay. And most of all, I'm angry at my husband. I can't take it anymore. I saw her tears and made up my mind. The next day, I woke up as usual and was preparing breakfast when my husband woke up.
Oh, it's a beautiful day, isn't it?
Yeah. Hilda and the kids don't have any plans today, so I'm gonna go shopping.
Are you ignoring me? Ugh. You're not as pretty as Hilda. Well, that's okay. I don't even want dinner, so I'm gonna go after breakfast.
My husband talks to me, but I just ignore him. I try to keep quiet. So what's that? Where's my breakfast? It's not here. Oh, I answered. But I'm not gonna change my tune.
What? Why not? You can't even do that as my wife.
That's enough.
What?
I said coldly, cutting him off. Your family is beautiful, Hilda, and lovely Corinne, right?
Huh? Yeah.
Then you should be a real family with them. We're not a family anymore.
What? What do you mean?
You're not in this family anymore. I'm divorcing you and I have a lawyer. We'll discuss alimony and child support later. In the meantime, why don't you just pack up and go?
Wait a minute. What are you mad at me for? I was just showing them some love. Are you jealous?
Why would I be jealous? I'm tired of it. And I've given up on you. There's no point in me living with you if you're never home in the first place.
You only work part-time. What about your life?
I've taken care of it so you don't have to worry. I'll be fine. It seems that my husband thinks I'm serious after I said all that. I'm not obligated to tell him, but I've been offered a full-time position by my part-time employer. I was going to do it when my daughter gets in middle school. I'm a little ahead of schedule. My husband is clearly starting to get upset.
You need to calm down a little bit. What are you gonna do without me in the first place? Wendy's gonna miss me.
Don't worry, I won't miss you.
It was my daughter who answered my husband's words, not me.
Wendy?
Dad, didn't you say that yesterday? You said you were going to be a father to lovely Corinne. I don't need a father anymore. I'm going to give you to Corinne.
What?
Even my husband is shocked by her words, but he has no right to be shocked.
I'm ugly and not pretty. That's why I have to live with my mother. You're just in the way.
She gave him a shooting motion with her hand and left.
Wendy, how can you talk like that to your father?
I told you, you're not her father.
What?
He rushes after the daughter. She glared at him angrily and left. Oh, and she hates you completely, doesn't she? Well, I hate you too.
Hey, you! You're the one who made her so insubordinate, in the first place, by not disciplining her. You don't train her at all.
I don't need you to tell me that.
What?
And now he's mad at me again. His face should turn red like a monkey. I have no use for you anymore. My husband is in tears at my pressure. It's time to finish him off. Wendy and I don't need you in our lives.
Denise?
I don't need a man who only cares about his sister and niece and does whatever he wants. Get your stuff and get out now.
Ah!
My husband jumped up and rushed to his room. Then he packed his belongings and left the house as if he was running away. A few days later, I received a phone call from my sister-in-law. I answered the phone thinking that it had been a long time since I had talked to my sister-in-law.
Hello, what's going on, sister? My brother says he's not coming home. He's coming to live with us.
As soon as I answer the phone, my sister-in-law starts ranting and raving.
My brother doesn't do anything even when he's here. He buys me dinner at a restaurant, so that's fine, but he doesn't cook anything in the morning and makes me prepare it. Why should I make my brother's lunch when I'm busy getting my daughter ready for school? He complained when I told him to go to a convenience store.
I don't know about that. I really don't know.
And he's telling Corinne to call him her father. It's really unbelievable and gross.
Wow, did he really say such a thing? It's really like him who can't read the atmosphere. Maybe it's because Corinne is much cuter than his own daughter. But that doesn't mean the world will misunderstand him. I don't know. You've been out a lot with your brother. You've even been on a vacation together. From anyone's point of view, you're like a family.
Family?
The father, Garrett, and his wife, you, and your daughter, Corinne. And I thought, wow, that's disgusting. And Hilda felt the same way.
That's disgusting.
You were getting a good deal from my husband. He was ignoring me and Wendy, and you were winning. I hope the three of you can continue to get along. I don't know you.
What? Hey!
I hung up the phone, ignoring my sister-in-law who was still trying to say something. Sorry I kept you waiting.
No problem. Shall we work out a plan for the meeting with your husband?
Thank you. I shook hands with a woman sitting in front of me. On her blazer was a shiny lawyer's badge. My husband and I divorced. My husband was insistent at first, but when I told him he can stay with his sister forever, he reluctantly accepted. He really loves his sibling. At first I thought he was a kind brother, but now I just think he's creepy. The divorce went through without a hitch, and he paid alimony and child support in one lump sum. The alimony was not due to an affair, though, so it was a small amount. Still, the lump sum payment, including child support, was quite a lot of money, and what would happen if my ex-husband had no savings? It was obvious to me that my ex-husband, who had no money, would not be able to provide his sister with the same luxuries as he had in the past. He can't afford an allowance, of course. He had become a man who just lounged around the house and got in the way. One day, Hilda called me again, and when I answered the phone, she was very rude.
I don't need a man who doesn't have money and doesn't do anything but get in the way. I'll give him back.
So I said, no returns are allowed. Please dispose of or repair it yourself at your own risk. I heard from someone that my ex-husband and ex-sister-in-law had a big fight. It was so chaotic that it could be heard outside, and eventually the police were involved. Corinne was so shocked by this that she ran away to her father. Corinne's relationship with her father was not bad to begin with. My sister-in-law, who was also abandoned by her daughter, became more and more bitter with her ex-husband. She was no longer able to love her brother. My ex-husband also became annoyed with his sister, and they fought constantly. Moreover, because of the police incident, he was not fired from the company, but he was transferred to a far-flung branch office. Naturally, Hilda did not follow. Hilda's husband and daughter abandoned her, and she spent the rest of her life in a shabby apartment. Apparently, my ex-husband is also living a soul-destroying life in the countryside, where there are only elderly people and no entertainment. As for me, I am now living alone with my daughter, but not much has changed. My husband was hardly ever home anyways. I feel very comfortable and stress-free. My daughter and I started doing shopping on the weekends. We also started going on trips. It's fun to go out as a family. Seeing my daughter smiling happily makes me happy too. My mother-in-law often throws my cooked food in the trash.
Human food is too good for you. I think water will do for you. It's just right for you, fatty. If you eat pork, you'll end up cannibalizing.
Wait, what? That's saying too much.
Shut up. As long as I have my granddaughter, I don't need you. I'm the one doing the housework and raising my granddaughter, right? Don't you talk back to me. I feel sorry for my son for marrying a woman like you. You're not good looking. You're homely and useless. You're a disgrace to have in our family. Well, there's not a soul in this house who'd consider you family anyways. My grandchildren are like my daughters, so you are nothing to them. You can go about your business as you should, like a pig, eating leftovers so as not to cause any trouble.
I have no human rights and treated with irrational contempt. Why? What have I done? The sadness that had been building up in my heart reached its limit, and large tears spilled from my eyes. My name is Nicole, and I am a stay-at-home mom. I have a husband and a daughter.
Good morning, Mom.
My daughter Madison is in 6th grade. I'm proud of her because she's bright, cheerful, and naturally makes everyone around her happy. Good morning, Madison. Today's lunch is your favorite. Omelets.
Wow, I'll be looking forward to it. I love your omelets more than anything in the world.
Yes, I'm glad you like it.
Oh, by the way, I got a text from Dad last night. He said he'll be home in time for my summer vacation.
That's great to hear.
I'm looking forward to that too.
Her father and my husband, Daryl, is currently overseas. He's an executive at his company, and he's extremely busy, so he only gets to come home once or twice a year. Madison and my husband don't see each other very often, since the assignment was made shortly after Madison was born. Even so, Madison is very attached to my husband, and he also cares about her a lot.
Well, I'm off to school now.
Have a good day. I'm sure she misses her father very much. Even so, Madison never whines about it, and always smiles, and makes me feel at ease. I am the one more worried about my husband's absence, and sometimes gets nervous about things. Seeing me like that, I think Madison is acting stout-heartedly because of her concern for me. A smart and kind husband, and a good-natured, strong-willed daughter. Thankfully, with these two people in my life, I can say that my life is smooth sailing. Except for one person, my mother-in-law. After sending Madison off, I was cleaning the room when the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find my mother-in-law, Amy, standing there smiling.
Hi, Nicole. How are you today?
Hello, I'm doing fine. I answered the door with a smile and gave a casual answer. My mother-in-law is a frequent visitor, and she does all the housework to the point where I have nothing to do left.
I'll do the cleaning so you can sit down, Nicole.
She smiles at me, but I don't miss it. Despite her kind words, I never miss the mean glint in her eyes. Before I got married, I thought that my mother-in-law was a wonderful woman. She was graceful, smart, and kind. I even admired her. But after I gave birth to Madison, I started to notice some disturbing signs. When I was confused about raising a child for the first time, and my husband's absence, she would approach me to give me advice. But then she would enter our home more and more uninhibitedly. Then she began to take care of Madison excessively, in addition to doing housework, she pushed me away to attend her open houses and acted as if she were Madison's parent. I could see that at the root of this behavior was the idea that my mother-in-law, my husband, and my daughter were family by blood. But I, her daughter-in-law, was a stranger, and she wanted to ostracize me. I could also see that she wanted to raise Madison in her own way.
Hey, Nicole, I'll cook dinner here tonight so the three of us, including Madison, can eat together.
My mother-in-law, who had just finished cleaning the house, was delighted to make such a suggestion. No, it's okay. I'll cook. I feel bad for always making you cook. Not wanting to ingratiate myself further with my mother-in-law, I tried to gently turn down her suggestion. But my mother-in-law said,
"Don't worry about it. Madison likes my cooking anyways."
She stubbornly refuses to take a step back, to let Madison think that her cooking is delicious, and to feel like she was the one raising Madison, not me. That was what she wanted to do. These days went on, and I became stressed out. I was afraid that Madison would sense the discord between my mother-in-law and me, and she would get stressed out too. Would Madison eventually be inspired by her grandmother to shun me? I couldn't help but feel anxious at the thought. At first, I tried to bear it on my own, but then I felt I was reaching my limit. I wanted to talk to my husband about it. I felt uncomfortable contacting my husband, who is a busy man, and I'm sure he wouldn't be happy to hear me bad-mouthing his mother. But I knew that my mother-in-law was probably taking advantage of the fact that my husband knew nothing about it, and that my husband was the only one who could help me with this situation. So I turned on my laptop and reached out to my husband via video call.
Nicole, what's wrong? Did anything happen?
On the screen was my husband, still looking at me tenderly. I'm sorry for the sudden call.
It's okay. Don't hesitate to let me know if you need any help.
When I saw my husband's smile, I felt relieved, and my suppressed feelings began to overflow, and I told him everything my mother-in-law had done. My husband listened to me quietly, nodding his head.
My mother was treated like that by her mother-in-law, my grandmother. I guess she thinks that you, the next generation, deserve to be treated the same way she was treated.
I see.
I know it must be hard for you, and I'm worried about how it's going to affect Madison. But I'll protect you guys.
I feel a little better now that my husband understands what I was going through. Somewhere along the line, my mother-in-law started bringing gifts when she visited our house.
"Nicole, here's some muffins I got from the store in front of the station,
where there's always a long wait line." Thank you very much. I'll prepare some tea now. I have no idea what she's thinking. It's so creepy.
"I've been eating a lot less lately. You can have some for me if you like."
I see. Well, I'll have some if you say so. This exchange went on almost every day. She also started following me around and restraining me even more than before, asking me to watch TV together and do some baking. So I lost time for my daily walking and stretching routines. In the end, my weight increased more and more because of all the sweets and lack of exercise. And my mother-in-law's attitude changed drastically when she saw me getting fatter and fatter. One day, my mother-in-law came to our house, and as soon as she saw me, the first thing she said to me was,
"Nicole, you've been gaining some weight lately, haven't you?"
She looked at me coldly, as if she was looking at something dirty. Yes, I was thinking that too. I've got to go on a diet. When I replied with a friendly smile, my mother-in-law's tone of voice turned sharp and fierce.
"You need to lose weight now. I can't have Daryl have a wife in that shape. Even Madison wouldn't want to have with such a sloppy mother."
While I was stunned, my mother-in-law strode into the kitchen and looked at the fried rice I was making for lunch. And the next moment, she threw it into the trash.
What?
I didn't have time to process what had just happened.
"You shouldn't be eating such calorie-dense food."
I stood there for a while in surprise. Then my mother-in-law's attitude escalated. One night at dinner, I looked at the table with all the food my mother-in-law had prepared, and I was mortified. While my mother-in-law and Madison were sitting down to a sumptuous steak, I was sitting down to a bowl of yogurt. What is this about?
"You're on a diet, aren't you?"
my mother-in-law said mockingly. "But
what are you complaining about? I'm just trying to be considerate."
No, it's nothing. I'm sorry."
"You're taking it too easy. You're a housewife. You don't even do your own housework. That's why you're fat."
I couldn't believe my ears. It was my mother-in-law who wanted to do all the housework.
"Maybe I spoiled you too much. I'll have you move around from now on."
But even after that, I was not allowed to do housework, but was forced to do hard exercises, such as jogging 5 miles and doing 1,000 sit-ups every day. As I was getting drained from the hard workout, I realized my mother-in-law's terrible plan. She had deliberately made me gain weight. Now she wanted to force me to lose weight and put a strain on my body. How could she do such a cruel thing to me, no matter how much she disliked me? I felt so unbearable that I cried quietly by myself in the bathroom at night. Then, suddenly, Madison came. I didn't want to worry Madison, so I hastily wiped away my tears.
"Are you being bullied by Grandma?"
No, that's not it. You don't have to worry about anything. Even if I hide it, this girl who is more perceptive than most will understand."
"Mom, I love you for always smiling and listening to what I have to say. I don't care if you've gained weight."
"Madison." When I heard those words, I had an epiphany. I felt foolish for fearing that Madison might be influenced by her grandmother. She's already grown up enough to be able to make good decisions on her own. I had to be strong too. I am her mother. I must be strong and protect Madison. I can't let my mother-in-law keep letting me down. That was when I had an idea. A few days later, it was Madison's 12th birthday. As usual, my mother-in-law took care of the party and didn't let me do anything. Though I was worried that she would harass me again, I thought she wouldn't make it a big deal on such a big day like Madison's birthday. But I was naive. It seems that my mother-in-law is really rotten at heart. My mother-in-law's order of roast pork for 2 was for 2 people, and there was none for me. Mother, what in the world? I was so disgusted that I couldn't speak. My mother-in-law was sipping a bottle of fine wine all to herself.
"I ordered delivery for my family. You're just the wife, not my family."
She smiled wickedly at me. That's just going too far. My mother-in-law glared at me and put a glass of water in front of me.
"Shut up. The food is too good for a person like you. I think water will do for you. It's just right for you, fatty. If you eat pork, you'll end up cannibalizing."
I glared back at my mother-in-law. I'm family too. I'm Madison's mother. My mother-in-law seemed to flinch a little, but then she quickly reasserted herself and yelled at me.
As long as I have my granddaughter, I don't need you. I'm the one doing the housework and raising my granddaughter, right? Don't you talk back to me.
At that moment, Madison, who had been silently listening to the conversation between my mother-in-law and me, started to cry. It's my fault, isn't it? You two don't get along with each other because of my birth. Madison burst into tears. Madison! Madison's distress seemed to make even my mother-in-law panic a little, but she immediately turned to me and said, It's your fault. You made Madison cry. How can you do this to her? And blamed me. And that's when it happened.
Mom, that's enough.
My husband's voice echoed through the room.
Daryl?
My mother-in-law looked around in panic. It was understandable that she was surprised to suddenly hear the voice of her son, who was supposed to be abroad. He is here. I lifted up my laptop, which was in a corner of the room, and held it in front of my mother-in-law. On the screen was my husband. I had recently decided to secretly connect a video call with my husband whenever I was with my mother-in-law. That was the idea I came up with to combat her.
Mom, Madison is Nicole and my child. One of us isn't the only parent. We're family.
That's not true.
I know how badly your mother-in-law treated you, and I'm grateful that you raised me the way you did despite that. But you know what, Mom? It's not about the past. It's about the future. It's about how Madison is going to grow up. I won't forgive you if you make Madison sad.
But...
If you can't understand that, then stay out of our family.
Even my mother-in-law, who is like a heartless devil, seems to have a weakness for her beloved son. With that, she plodded her way home.
Dad...
Madison stares intently at the computer screen.
Happy birthday, Madison. I'm sorry I can't be there with you.
Oh, Dad, you are so cool. Thanks, Dad.
I'm glad to hear that. Your mother and I will take care of you no matter what.
I was so happy to see them like that. I thought to myself that I was truly blessed to have such a wonderful husband and daughter. But then I came back to reality. My husband has seen me so fat. In the past, I have always tried to avoid having my husband see my body when we used video calls. But today, I let my guard down and exposed my entire body. I'm sorry I've gained so much weight. I quickly apologized. My husband was stunned, but immediately burst out laughing and said,
Don't worry about it. You may be chubby, but you're still you, and nothing has changed.
Thank you. That's so nice of you. But I'm going to try to lose weight. The room was filled with laughter of the three of us. After that, my husband distanced himself from his mother, who never changed her mind. Not only did she not get her grandchild, her son abandoned her. I'm sure she will spend the rest of her life alone and lonely. Now I live with my husband, who has returned, and my daughter, who is now in junior high school. Needless to say, Madison's face is brighter than ever now that she can live with her father she loves so much. I believe that the family environment created by adults has a great impact on children. I want to be a strong mother and work together with my husband to keep Madison's smile alive.